Yo, what the fuck is up? Simon here, back with another episode of my now titled League of Legends esports podcast. So before I didn't have a title, now I do have one. It's called Zoomin on the Rift now, because, you know, I'm a zoomer and I zoom in on the Rift where League of Legends is played. Nice. Anyway, I actually am really surprised by the warm reception I got from you guys on Reddit. I was convinced maybe 10 people would watch the last episode, where it was 850 in the first day, which was crazy. So huge thank you to everyone who watched and commented. And this time, I'm gonna try and be a little more energetic, a little bit more entertaining. I got a good night's sleep today, so that should be easier than it was last time. Anyway, before we get into all of the League of Legends stuff, yes, I'm doing this podcast solo today again. And, I'm gonna keep it that way for now, because my previous, co-host, alleged co-host, I guess, because you guys never seen him, bailed pretty much on the project, so that's fine. I'll just do it myself for now. But if you'd like to come up on the show as a guest, well, leave a comment down below and maybe we can figure something out. But I just wanted to ask you, how has the new season been going for you? Because I know the patch 13.1 and now the 13.1b, because I've seen some people really hating it. But for me, actually, because, this is a League of Legends podcast, sure. And crazy idea, some people who watch League of Legends esports actually play the game. So tell me how it's been going for you, because for me, actually, I've been having pretty nice back and forth games. I play mid lane and AD carry, which is the two worst roles in the game right now. But I've still been having a lot of fun. I've been having plenty games, even when I get stomped, I go 0-5 in lane as Ahri, I still am able to farm up in the side lanes and just, have a competitive game, which is kind of cool, because the game's been a bit longer than in season 12, so I'm really happy about that. So comment down below, how's the new season been treating you, and are you excited for the changes now that Freak is in control of the balance team? Because, the new 13.2 AD carry patch, I only played a couple of games so far, but I am really excited to keep playing more, which is cool. As an AD carry main, give me something to be happy about, alright? And he did. Freak delivered. So I'm really happy. Anyway, with all that aside, let's jump into the best damn league in the universe. That's right, the LEC. So what we're gonna do today is go over all of the teams. I'm gonna try and keep this podcast a little bit shorter than last time, because last time we got to nearly 2 hours, which was a bit longer than I expected. I wanted it to be between 60 and 75 minutes. So let's try doing that now. So we'll go over all the teams starting from the bottom to the top, and analyze some of the takes I had in the previous episode, because actually, when you come back to that episode, I had some pretty good takes that nobody else was talking about, and I was right about them. But I was also horribly wrong about one team, and I was sort of wrong about another team, which we'll get there. But after we go over all the teams, I'm gonna have another segment today where I tell you what are some interesting storylines to follow next week. And if there is 4 matches that you would want to watch, just 4 out of the 15 that will be played in the LEC, which ones should they be, and what should you pay attention to get the most enjoyment out of your time of watching the league? So, without further ado, let's start at the bottom. And who else at the bottom than my boys, Astralis? Well, Astralis. Who could have expected them to be 0-3 coming out of the first week? Yeah, well, I actually didn't. I thought they would win versus SK, but SK actually got their shit together and won versus them, which is cool because we'll get to SK later. But actually, I'm not that down on Astralis. I still think that team is better than they were last year, so there is some improvement. I genuinely think this version of the team is better and has higher potential. Like looking at 113 in the LEC, because a lot of people would be were like, this guy will come in and just straight up be the worst jungler, griefing every game. And sure, he did have some grief moments, but as I told you, I have not really watched this guy in the ERLs, right? But I've listened to experts who did, and they all said like, sure, on Cape Corp he was like kind of griefing, but before his Cape Corp days, this guy was a psychopath, and if his team really trusts him to follow up on his plays, this guy will just, really be able to snowball the games. And that's what we've seen from this team. I feel like when they did not follow 113 on his crazy ass plays, he inted, like as expected. But when they did, like he actually got some stuff done in those games. Now, Dior was really not great, so this did not amount to much. But even in their Vitality game, like those guys were playing surprisingly well. Wait, Vitality? Am I getting this right? I think they did play Vitality, but I'm just gonna open the schedule to confirm, because I think that's the game I was thinking. That was the G2 game. My bad. Yeah, but even in the G2 game, like Dio was trying to make some stuff happen, but it just wasn't really working out. I still think this guy deserves at least this split in the LEC and one more to try him. I don't think he's terrible, but he did have some rough moments. But I still think there is hope for this team, because like Finn, he did look really good, and Finn is, as I told you in the last episode, Finn is the let him cook player. You just have to let this guy just play on a bottom team and just play the game how he wants to. Because I told you, like, Finn is not going to be the best player on a like top tier team, because like he's just too idiosyncratic and he needs to play this game his way. But when he does, like, this guy did not look bad in those Astralis games, even though they lost all three. So that there is hope for this team. I don't think they're like dog shit like last year's BDS was. There is hope. And I'm excited to, even though they're 0-3, I'm excited to have a league where there are 9 teams worth watching. And we'll get to SK later. Actually, let's just get to them now, because, like, bruh, I don't want to talk about SK. Like, yeah, Makun is pretty good. And I'm gonna give it to them. Exakick was actually surprisingly like hit the ground running pretty much. He was actually playing really well this week, and I was surprised to see that, because like I expected Jack Spectra to be the better AD carry coming out of the ERLs, but actually I will get to Jack Spectra later. But Exakick impressed me more, so there is some hope for this team. But then again, I just don't care, brother. At least DOS didn't int that much, I guess. But like, oh god, watching those guys were like, ugh. Just no. Like, they won their last game, but like, at what cost? At what cost? I don't know. I just hope they don't get into the top 8 before changing their spot to someone a bit more proactive. I don't know, like, just I don't care. I don't care. I'll talk about them when they do something interesting. And do you know what? I heard Markoon in the interviews talking about like, oh, they're actually pretty good in scrims, but they've been playing like pussies on stage. So if they can just play well, maybe, sure. I want them to be interesting. I want a league where all the 10 teams are worth watching. But for now, I would rather watch Astralis than SK. It's just what it is. So, skipping really quickly over SK, let's go to... Let's just knock down the bottom 3, sure. Although, BDS also sitting at 1 and 2, just like tied with teams like Heretics, of course SK, but also Fnatic and Excel. Okay. So, BDS, I actually liked watching this team, which is shocking to me, because last year they like I called them BDSM, and that's for a reason, because they were just like awful, and they kept like, you know, Nuclear Ent was like the pretty much the most terrible mid laner I have seen in the last few years of the LEC, but here he is again for another split, and at least he looked better in lane. We'll get to the teamfights later, because I am still not gonna praise Nuclear Int. Don't worry about that. Even though he got fed on Akali, I'm still gonna find a way to shit on him, and it's gonna be completely justified. But BDS. First of all, Crowny. Holy shit. I was never a huge fan of this player. I was just like, I just didn't fuck with him when he was in the LEC for the previous years. I was just like, bro, sure he's okay, but like, whatever. But, you know, now that he's back, I'm really happy he is, because, bro, he actually played surprisingly well this week. And I was really happy to see that, because he was like almost 1v9ing those games on a team like BDS, which is like, you know, not the greatest roster ever. But actually, I am pretty confident this team will make it to top 8, because, like, you know, there's Astralis and SK beneath them, right? But I've got a hot take on that too. But this team will probably make top 8, and it's actually deserved, because, like, sure, Nuke, what's his name now? Nuke is still Suk in my opinion, but Sheo, this guy just came in and, bro, he's good. Like, his game sense is pretty, like, you know, apparent from just like looking at the game. And what I absolutely love about this guy is he's not afraid to make plays, even when they are like, you know, 25-30% chance of success. Love that. Absolutely love that, and we need more of that in the league, right? Because sometimes when you're on the team that's supposed to lose, well, you have to make the play, right? And this guy is doing that, so I'm really happy about that. And Adam, God, Adam. He's like, he gave us the EU carry top special this week with the Darius game. He got super fed in lane. He played like really exquisitely well in the 1v1, and then proceeded to do fuck all the entire rest of the game. Oh god, that was painful. He just got, you know, it really felt like he did not know what to do to win the game. He just kept grouping with the team and trying to team fight, and like, bro, sure, you can do that on Darius when you like get the resets and shit, but you can also side lane very well, which I felt like Adam was just like completely missing the mark on that, which was sad to watch, because, like, you know, when he got fed, I really, really wanted him to carry that game, but alas, he's an EU carry top, so yeah, so we get that. But overall, like, I am really happy to watch this team. I still think they need to change their mid laner, because, like, sure, Nuke had better laning phases this year. I'm going to give him that. But, like, holy shit, watching this guy out of lane, can he not hit a single Akali E in a pressure situation? There were so many teamfights where BDS could have, like, absolutely stomped them if Nuke just hit his fucking abilities. But he just chokes under like any semblance of pressure. It's not like, oh, this is a big game and they need to win it, so he chokes. That's understandable, you know, for a new player, for a rookie, that's understandable. This guy chokes in every single fucking fight, and it's like, it's kind of painful, because you know this guy does have the mechanics, but when it comes to playing team fights, he just like misses Akali E on stationary targets. He fails the RE combo, just like, get me out of here. His Azir game was the same fucking thing. He got a pretty huge lead, right? But then he did fuck cool with it. And just like, I'm so tired of watching this guy. It's just like, bro, it's like, please, BDS, like, just dump him to the ERLs, give him a year or two to develop, and then maybe he can come back and be actually good when he just like gets rid of those fucking jitters. But for now, he just seems like the absolute like fucking a nightmare to have in the LEC. And I am not gonna change my opinion just because he had some decent laning phases this week. Like, come on, guys. Just don't just like blindly go like, oh, he got first, so he's good. No, he was not. And I'm not gonna pretend he was. All right, before we get to the interesting 1-2 teams, let's just quickly go over Heretics. So, I was surprised to hear that the take on Evi was that this guy is just gonna be bad on most other podcasts. I told you what I think. This guy is gonna be was going to be definitely competitive in EU. And he was actually even better than I expected. He was like actually just like fucking kids in lane, which is just like, you know, actually impressive when it comes to the caliber of players he played. He played versus Fodon, who we'll get to this year, who we'll get to later, and that didn't look bad at all. So yeah, I was really impressed with Evi. Now, Jack Spectra. I expected a lot more from this guy, but you know, I was like, okay, he was supposed to debut in the LEC like what, couple of years ago now, and well, he just didn't really hit the ground running. Let's just say that he seemed to be like playing kind of scared most of the games, which like, you know, maybe it's understandable for a newish AD carry in the league. I still think he can develop into a really good player, but this week he just was not it at all. Ruby though, I mentioned in my previous video that like basically this team is going to live or die by how good Ruby is. And I'm pleased to say that Ruby is not bad at all. He was kind of impressive, like especially in that Cassiopeia game. Dude just straight up smurfed. Sure, he had a rougher game on Kassadin and Ryze, but I still think he played kind of like, you know, he played well in those games, even though like the drafts didn't really allow him to shine. But like, you know, it seems like he has a really high affinity for those like really hard scaling mid laners that get like tanky in the late game. So that's cool. I'm gonna wanna continue watching this guy because he actually does seem interesting. And if he does end up being like, you know, a player that actually brings some firepower, not just in the late game, but if he can actually, you know, continue laning well, then I can see this Heretics team being pretty good, even despite the 1-2 record right now. And yeah, one last thing I'm gonna touch on with Heretics. We're probably gonna cover them more in like, you know, the third episode of the show. So I'm gonna just skip them for now. But I predicted that their macro is going to be pretty good, and especially in their first game, it really was. It was like the whole reason why they came back into the game and won it. Even versus Vitality, I could see those guys like attempting plays, and you know, like I am really glad to see that. Like even though they got like draft gapped, but you know, I don't hate this team. And I've seen a coach Seal of this team being like really kind of, you know, how do you call that, like repentant on Twitter, just basically saying that he fucked this draft and, you know, it's his fault that the team lost those 2 games. And do you know what, in the Kassadin game, I don't necessarily disagree. They needed a scaling pick, but Kassadin really wasn't that into, like, you know, for melee champions, which, you know, he touched touched down on this point on Twitter, so I'm not gonna like belabor it and be like, oh yeah, they should not pick Cassidy. They know. So yeah, the drafts were kind of rough, but overall their macro play and their solo lanes were much better than people expected. So this team can actually develop into one of the better teams in the league. I hope so, because, I don't want Jankos to be stuck on a mediocre team. This guy is just way too good at his job. So, yeah. But then again, even if Heretics don't end up making top 4, which I don't think they will, I can see some teams offering some real big bucks to Jankos next split. I'm just gonna keep it at that because I don't know if Heretics will be willing to sell him, but let's just say that if I am the manager of Fnatic or Excel right now, I'm just writing a blank check to Jankos and like, bro, just come here, Marcin, just play for us, please, just whatever you want, we'll bring you a barmaid, just like whatever, just sign here, please. That's what those teams are doing right now. So let's finally, now that we got rid of the boring teams, talk about the exciting ones. So first of all, I'm gonna need to eat a cock on this one, because I predicted Excel to be second. Yeah, and there ain't no fucking way they're making top 4. I know this is an overreaction, probably, after the first week, but what I've seen from this team just confirmed, like, if G2 had, like, some really big question marks, which we'll get to later, and I was like, at least 3 out of those question marks have to be really answered positively for this team to be any good, right? So did Excel. Now, I was definitely more sure that Excel will like answer their question marks correctly, but it really does not seem like they did. And let's talk about it, because I'm gonna admit, I'm gonna repent right now. I got fucking conned. Now, I mentioned in my previous video that I don't know about Xerxes, because even though like he's a farming jungler and Vethio played well with a farming jungler like Razork, they're really different styles of junglers, even though they both technically prefer, farming up. And I had my suspicions about Patrick, who I just did not talk about at all in the previous video. And I also was like, I got like convinced, because I was like, I've seen Targamas last year on G2, and everyone was telling me like, dude, okay, sure, this guy's laning is not that great, but it's just because he's laning with Flackhead. If he wasn't laning with Flackhead, his laning phase would be as great as his roams, and his roams were fucking great last year. They were on point, and I'm not gonna, just deny that, right? But this guy's laning was mad suspect last year. But I was like, okay. If all the analysts are saying that it's just because of his lane partner, then maybe it is, and maybe my eye test just is not good enough to, to rate a player like that. But yeah, this week we've seen some mad suspect laning from him. Let's just say that. But let's start from the start. So Excel came out with a disgusting performance this week, and people are like, oh, but they only played versus a good team. It's not even that. Like, sure, they lost to G2, and and they lost to Koi, but okay, sure, they lost to good teams, but it's not really it's not just the record. It's like, a good team can be 1-2 after a really tough week, right? It happens. But this team just looked mad fucking suspect in the server. Like, what I've seen from them is just like, Odo Amne, about as good as everyone expected, or better even, because like he played some like actual strong. He played an actual strong Renekton game, and his Cassante game was also definitely impressive, like way more than I expected to be impressed by Odoamne playing like, actual skilled champions. So Odoamne, he's the core basically, right? Like, all the players on Excel could be fired, but you got to keep Odoamne, right? Like, if you can hold on to just one of those 5 players, just do everything in your power to keep Odoamne, because this guy is a fucking treasure in the LEC, alright? So, let's just continue with the good. Vetio, when he got to those late games where he excels, when he did manage to farm up in his Ahri game, he looked just as good as everyone expects him to. His mechanics are on point. He has this instinct for making the game-winning play, and he almost did carry that game versus Koi. Sure, they ended up losing it, but, like, I was watching this and I was like, this game is painful, but Oro was playing really well, and also, Ahri, actually, this is just based off my solo queue experience, but I play a lot of both Ahri and Kassadin, and in my experience, Kassadin is like much stronger than Ahri in the mid game, but once you get to like 3.5, 4 items, I would say that Ahri actually kind of outscales Kassadin, and she's just more useful, and she can like easily kill him 1v1, and that's what we've seen from this game. So I was watching this and I was like, is this going to be some Vetio magic and they are actually gonna win? And he almost did pull that off. So, like, I saw people on Reddit being like, oh, so Vetio was just being funner than he's actually... Just shut the fuck up. Bro, he was... Like, you could see that this guy is just, like, still trying to win. Now, sure, in the other 2 games, he didn't really get to play League of Legends much, even in the win. But, still... I would say Vetio is definitely not a problem, right? Those are the 2 players I was sure about, and those guys delivered. Now, before we get to Targamas and Xerxes, I'm just gonna say, Patrick, although his laning was abysmal, this guy was still putting out mad damage in the later fights. Like, I was not I was never a Patrick fan, and just like by eye test alone, this really did not check out to me this week. Like, I was like watching him play and I was like, this guy ain't special. But what's actually just like completely bonkers is when you look at the list, when you look at the DPM, which players put out the most damage per minute. Actually, Patrick was on top of the list this week, on a team that only won 1 game, and while getting absolutely blasted in lane. And let's save that point, because we're gonna come back to that later when talking about another team real soon. But, this just shows that you can get blasted in lane and then still continue putting like absolute ungodly amounts of damage in teamfights as an ADC once you get some farm under your belt. So that was like really, surprising to me when I was looking up those stats and I saw Patrick on the number 1 spot. I was like, I had to do a double take on those games, but yeah, he really did hurt in teamfights. So I guess, like, I'm not gonna bash on Patrick too much, because like, sure, his laning phase was suspect as fuck, but also, well, he's laning with Targamas, right? Which, like, still some people are trying to tell me like, oh, he can be good in lane, just you wait, he got handicapped by Flakked last year, all right, and this time they just didn't have pressure. And do you know what, maybe I hope he'll be good, but people are treating this guy like he's a rookie. He's not really a rookie though. He's been playing like professionally for what, like 7 years now. More than that, actually. Wasn't he in the LEC in like 2015? Let me just look it up, actually, because I did not do that before the episode. But I'm just gonna check. Okay, no, I was actually completely wrong. He was in the LEC in 2018. All right. So I was completely wrong about that. Okay, fine. But that's still 5 years, all right? And he played, in the top ERLs. He didn't play in some shitty teams. No, he played on Vitality Academy. He played on Misfits Academy. He played on Carmine Corp, right? So this guy has experience, and on G2, this guy got to play on against international competition. I just don't really think this guy can be classified as a rookie who has so much room to improve by now. Sure, I think he's way better than what he showed this week, but I'm also not gonna expect him to magically become the number one support in the league. I think he'll continue to be great at what he's great at, which is roaming. But do I expect him to just magically become a laning god? I don't know, guys. Maybe, but I'm not gonna count on that. Now let's get to the real cherry on the pile of shit that Excel was. People keep telling me that Xerxes is good. People have been telling me that for years, ever since he debuted on Unicorns of Love in the LEC. People were saying he was good on Origin, even though I thought he was the reason that this team was shit. And yes, they had Destiny in the support role, and I still think Xerxes was the reason that this team was shit. He was kind of bad in NA, and he was when he was on Astralis, he was kind of impressive because he was just allowed to do his thing basically, right? And just play the game exactly to his style, and then he looked decent. But I was when this roster was put together, I was that looks pretty good. But Xerxes, I would just almost call this a super team. But they've got Xerxes in the jungle. But every podcast that I've listened to were yeah, Xerxes is so fucking good. He's so fucking smart. He can just carry those games. And I was really, I've never seen Xerxes do that, but all right. I'm just gonna trust all of those experts that they know something I do not from just my eye test, right? Because I don't really look at stats. I don't really do deep analysis of those games. I just watch them and I talk about what I see with my eye test and what I also just know from watching those players interact, watching those players in interviews, and just analyzing their kind of personalities, because that's my area of expertise, right? I studied psychology and coaching, not League of Legends. So there's that. But do you know what? I am never going to get on the Xerxes hype train again, because maybe there are reasons why this guy is secretly the GOAT. Maybe there are. But in my opinion, this guy is just fucking dog shit. Bro, watching Excel this week was just the fucking Xerxes special, where, this guy would just do absolutely nothing on the map, not show up to a single gank on a ganking champion, and then still be fucking down in CS. That's the Xerxes special. That's the Xerxes I know and hate. And he showed up big time on Excel. And bro, if this team gets good without changing a jungler, I would be fucking surprised. Cause bro, this guy just I hate watching Xerxes play. I hate watching him on good teams because I've seen how he ruined Origin previously. That squad had fucking Alfari, that squad had fucking Nuke Duck, and that squad had fucking Upset, right? Probably the best top and bot lane, top and AD carry in the league at the time. And Nuke Duck, who was actually, that was probably the best Nuke Duck we've ever seen. And this team finished 10th. Now, sure, that split was exceedingly competitive, right? But I always thought like the jungle and support were the reason why those guys were terrible. And well, Xerxes showed his fucking head again in Excel. And I don't know. I don't have much hope for this team, and I'm just gonna say it. I've been so fucking wrong about predicting them top 2. I don't think they will be top 2. I just don't see them even making top 4. This team, like, I know it's 3 games. I know it's 3 best of ones. But I am so fucking out on this team. Like, I bought those stocks when they were super high. And now that they're super low, I'm selling. But I don't care because I don't think they will go up higher. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, this team just seems dysfunctional. Like, Xerxes, like, they have, like, a bunch of really passive players, right? Patrick was never the win lane guy. Targamas was never the win lane guy. Vethio, although he's godlike in late game teamfights, he was never the win lane guy. Odoamne, need I say more? And then you complete this team by adding fucking Xerxes, who will never gank, he will never fix a bad lane for his team, and I somehow expected this team to be good. So, my bad on that. I apologize. For trusting Xerxes, and I promise I'm never gonna do that again. Even if the guy ends up 1v9ing the next 6 games, I'm still gonna preach that Xerxes is shit, because that's just what I've seen for 5 years of watching this guy play now, and I'm not gonna pretend he's not anymore. Sorry about that, but I'm just not gonna. Alright, now on a happier note, let's talk about the team I was fucking right about. Hello, Mr. Fanatic. How are you enjoying your Reckless back in the bottom lane? and you know what's hilarious? I actually saw some Fanatic fans on Reddit and Twitter coping that, oh, you know what? But they only really lost to the top 2 teams in Vitality and G2, and they won versus Koi, who's also a top team. So actually, yeah, Fnatic is definitely top 4. They look really good. No, no fucking way, brother. Now, there are some shining lights to this team, so let's maybe talk about the positives first. Humanoid and Razork, their synergy seems to be there, and this is like the biggest question mark I had in the previous episode, which is why I predicted this team to just finish, not even I predicted this team to have a 40 or 50% chance of not even making top 8, right? And I think the main point I had was that the Humanoid and Razork anti-synergy will just mean that those guys will never... those guys are always worse than the sum of their parts should be. But this week, they at least did not grief each other. I'm not going to say they had amazing synergy, but they played well together. They played decently together. And I'm happy about that. That's a good sign for the team. Another good sign, Wunda, even when he goes down in lane, this guy can just fucking carry team fights. This guy is just the fucking Giga Chat player. Dude, by the way, his all chats versus Vitality were so fucking hilarious. I love this guy. But yeah, there is some good things about him. And I'm gonna even touch down on the humanoid topic soon. But let's talk about the bot lane. The good thing is, Rux is a fucking stud. I did not expect him to come in that well, because yeah, he had some really great games at Worlds, but then again, I saw people who watched him in the ERLs telling me that's bait and he's not actually that good, but he did seem really good in the LEC so far, so I'm really, really happy to see that. Rux seems solid. And a fitting replacement for Hillisang, because we'll get to Hilly soon. But Hilly's biggest weakness is that he can't really play enchanters, right? He's amazing on engaged supports, but he can't really play enchanters. Now, what Rox has shown us is that he's both decent on engaged support, probably not Hilly level, but then again, Hilly is like one of the best engaged support players in the world. But his enchanters are actually solid, and he does seem like a very smart player. So I'm really excited to watch more of Rax. Now, what I'm not excited to watch more of is another year of Reckless pretending to be a top tier AD carry. Just bro, like this guy, he'll never fucking change. All right, it's like I've actually been a huge fan of Reckless in season 4 when I started watching the game, because I was like, you know, dude, I was like, what? In season 4, I was 16, right? So I was just looking at Reckless through the lens of this guy just fucking cute, and I would suck his dick if I met him. I should probably cut that part. But anyway, I was just like looking at Reckless, that he's like just genuinely a really good looking player. And he seemed like, you know, to have this kind of like superstar attitude in the interviews, and like just this kind of like shy boy who's actually really confident about his gameplay, blah blah blah, stuff like that. And I was so vibing with him, and I was like always rooting for this guy to be the best. And when he returned to Fnatic for the first time after leaving them for Elements, right, I was like so hyped. I was like, yeah, this guy is going to be fucking the shit, right? And when they actually went like 18-0 that split and went to Worlds, I was like so hyped for this team. I actually genuinely thought that Fnatic will win Worlds that year, which did not happen. But I still think that if they got if the bracket was reversed, because like Origin played versus Rox Tigers or whatever their name was back then, and Fnatic played versus SKT. Or was it the other way around? I don't remember. Right now, I'm not gonna remember that. But I just remembered watching that year, and I was like, if those matchups were reversed, I thought that like Fnatic would beat the other team that they did not play against. But anyway, that's cool. That's in the past now. And do you know what else should be in the past? Fucking Reckless. Just like don't put this guy on teams like that, please. And just don't, like, you know, I told you in the last episode, like, Fnatic is like this guy who's like, oh, you know, sure, my girlfriend cheated on me 3 times already, but she's not gonna cheat for the 4th time, bro. Like, she's changed. My brother in Christ, like, Reckless has put on such a shit show this week that I just like, bro, I don't even know if he's an LEC level player right now. Probably is. I'm probably overreacting, but just tell me players like Comp, players like Kazi, out of all people, players like Crowny, players like fucking Exakick did not look much better than Reckless did. You can't, because he looked like shite. He got absolutely giga-stomped in all of the laning phases. I think he did fine versus Vitali. I don't actually remember. But this guy is just fucking invisible in teamfights. It seems like, you know, he's always thinking like, oh, no, I can't die because this will look bad after the game and people will say I inted. I can't do that. No, I cannot disappoint my fans, and it's like this cunt is like sitting there and just like thinking like, oh, I can't disappoint my fans, and his fucking 4 teammates are sitting right next to him, and they're like, what about us, you cocksucker? That's just the vibe I get while watching Reckless, because he's team fighting is, bro, it's just so fucking dog shit. He will just run away from fights where he could have put so much damage. And you think I'm just a Reckless hater? Maybe. But I just watched this guy play for long enough that I know that he's never gonna be the player to carry a team in a tough game. He's just not. So, I've got some stats to back me up, actually, right? Because when I checked out the DPS rankings, right, or DPM, damage per minute, who out of the AD carries in the league put out the most damage this week, right? In the first place, we had Patrick. Interesting. You can put out really high damage on a team that's that's losing most of their games. That ends up the week with a 1-2 record. Interesting, hey? And he ended up with something crazy, like over 900 damage per minute. That was huge. In the second spot, we've actually had Jack Spectra, which I was surprised at because I also was not impressed by watching him play, but I've got to rewatch those games and see what he was really doing in the team fights then. Then we have Comp. Then we have Kazi. In the fifth spot, we've got Exakick. Then in the sixth spot, we've got Neon. Then we've got who was that? I actually can't remember. I can't read what I wrote, but whatever. In the eighth spot, in the seventh spot, we've got Hans. I wrote a H to look as a K and I was confused. Who the fuck is Hans? But anyway, yeah. In the seventh spot, we've actually had Hans Sama, who was surprisingly low in the DPM for somebody who got so fed in those games. But then again, the champions he played or whatever. Then we had Crowny in the number 8 spot. Number 9 spot, we've got Kobe, who put out 545 DPM. And then in the number 10 spot, we've got Reckless, who put out 424 damage per minute. That's kind of low. That's like half the damage that Patrick, who ended up on a team with the same fucking record as him, put out in those games. Now, sure, you can say that, he just didn't get fed and blah, blah, blah. And sure, there is some truth to that. But, what I've really seen in all of those team fights was he had the opportunities to put out damage, but he would just stopwatch in the most random places where he wasn't really even in danger. He would just completely run away from fights that could have been won if he just put out good damage in them. He would just play such a fucking bitch, and he ended up in the 10th spot for DPM, putting out over 120 damage per minute less than the player in the number 9 spot. And you can't say it's just because Astralis went because just Fnatic went 1 and 2, because Kobe went 0-3 and he put out 120 damage per minute more than Reckless. And also, even if we're just talking KDA, right? Even for KDA, you guys, you Reckless fans are gonna love this, because in the first spot we've got Comp with 26 KDA. In the second spot we've got Hans with 20 KDA. In the third spot we've got Crowny with 15 KDA. In the fourth spot we've got Kazi with 9.3. Then we've got Neon with 7.4. And Reckless is sitting comfortably in the number 3 spot in the number 6 spot at 3.2. Get me out of here. This guy just... The saddest thing is you can see that his mechanics are good, but his fucking mindset towards the game is just so fucking whack. And I know that's, it's not that Fnatic chose him over Upset. It's that Upset did not want to play for Fnatic. Here's the bomb for you. Which is not my bomb. I heard it from Thorin. But, I know this guy has got pretty good sources inside this team, so I'm just gonna assume that it was true. But still, that's a wee bit of a downgrade, isn't it, Fnatic fans? Imagine having the best AD carry in the league, no, Fnatic would never have that. This is so fucking whack. When they announced his return to Fnatic, I was like, this team isn't fucking doing anything. They are not top 4. Spoiler, guys. I'm just gonna say that. even though they've got players that absolutely belong in top 4. I would say that, Wunder, Humanoid, Razork, even Rox could be on a top 4 team. All of, like, the first 3 definitely belong on a top 4 team. And Rox, I don't think he would be a dead weight on a really good team. There's just something missing, and that's damage. Get me out of here, bro. But yeah, enough about Reckless. I'm just gonna come back to Humanoid, because, bro, this is not a secret. Humanoid is one of my favorite players in the league, right? I think that, like, when this guy is on, he's like probably like one of the top 3 mid laners in the world. So this guy is insane. His mechanics, his team fighting, his like side laning, this guy is absolutely cracked. But the thing about Marek is he just does not give a single flying fuck. It's actually crazy watching this guy. It's like he just doesn't care. He just, he will just go in on a guy that's like a guaranteed kill. Then he will be like, oh, what's that? The guy had more of my marches. Well, I guess I'm gonna die then. Whatever. He doesn't give a shit. He will not, like, this game does not matter to him. He's not versus a good team, right? So why would he even, tab out to check this guy's item? Like, nah, bruh, it's gonna be fine. Like, legit, this guy just doesn't seem to give a single flying shit unless the pressure is on. And it's definitely frustrating to watch as a fan of his, because I want to be like, dude, this guy is one of the best mid laners in the world, and then I show him, then they watch those games and they are like, no, he's not, and I'm like, just wait for Worlds. And he showed up last year. He did everything I knew about him. He showed up in playoffs. He showed up at Worlds. That's Marek for you. But yeah, I did not expect him to be very good in the regular season, and I don't think I was wrong. I don't think I was wrong. He just does not give a fuck. I would be surprised if he even played any kind of like solo queue or champions queue this week. I don't think this guy really gives a shit. I think if those guys made playoffs, then he would really turn it up. But right now, like, especially playing with someone like Reckless, I don't think Marek gives a single fuck. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Anyway, enough about this team, because this is such a train wreck. Like, nah, like when you have a humanoid team, you've got to have a strong carry in another lane for the regular season, right? Because humanoid is just not gonna be that in like the regular season game versus Astralis. And they had upset, and now they don't. Yikes. I think Razork was really good, and in the previous episode I suggested this team should probably change their jungler. I mean, I am not suggesting this because I think that Razork is terrible. I think he's really good. I just don't think, I just think with humanoid, you'd kind of need something different, a jungler that's like more focused on ganking and just getting his team ahead. And Razork did a good job of that, but that's not his playstyle. It's pretty obvious. So there's that. But anyway, enough about Fnatic. Let's just quickly touch about on the 2-1 teams, because like I pretty much was like those teams performed kind of exactly as I expected in the case of Koi, and kind of like better than I expected from Alliance. So Koi, they still have the same great core of 4 players, right? Malrank, Larsen, Comp, Trimby. Bang. That's, that's the makings of a championship roster right here. But then we've got Shigenda, who's giving us the EU carry top special this week, because oh boy, he was really good in lane. But after that, now brother, this ain't it. He's just, playing like the typical European carry top laner who just gets, he's got good mechanics. He's smart about the game. Because like from watching him in interviews, this guy is kind of like this goofball, really lovable, but still an idiot. But in the game, he does seem smart, and his mechanics are really good. His laning phase is... I can see why they picked him up, but this guy just does not know how to press an advantage from top lane. And sure, maybe it's the team not playing around him the way they should, and that's definitely part of it. But bro, Malrang came in as just the giga chat that he is this week, and he was like, he really played a huge role in why Shigenda looked so good, right? Oh. But then this team tried to team fight with a fed top laner instead of just like, trying to side lane, which... I don't know, brother. I hope that now that we've got Chasey, Photon, and Abby in the league, maybe those import top laners are going to teach players like Shigenda, Broken Blade, Adam, how to fucking win the game from top lane. Because yeah, EU carry tops have not been great historically, and Shigenda is just another incarnation of that same trope. And I really hope this guy can improve. And I really hope they don't just start playing him weak side every game, because that would be a travesty with how good his mechanics are. But this guy really needs to work on his fundamentals, right? So next we've got Mad Lions, and I'm just gonna have a smug smile for a few seconds to soak in all the praise I'm getting from being so fucking right about this team. Because people were like, oh, this Mad Lions team, they're gonna be like 6th, 7th, they're not gonna be good. I'm like, my brother in Christ, the only reason this team could be bad is if either Chasey is a complete inter, which turns out it's not the case, or if Elioya is just completely checked out mentally, because I mean, I wouldn't blame him after what happened in the offseason, right? But turns out, first of all, Chasey, he did not like super impress me, but I got more than I expected from him, right? I expected him to be like kind of whatever, and he seems good, not amazing, but good, which, for an EU top laner, that's probably enough. I'm sad because, watching EU top laners is sometimes pain, but there we go. So at least Chasey is not that. Like, this guy actually knows how to play League of Legends, which, great. But also, can we talk about Elioya's fucking godlike mental? Like, if I were this guy in his position, I would probably just like check out, and I would purposefully int every fucking game just to get back at Mad Lions for fucking up my offseason so badly, right? But no, he comes up and he's still just a fucking beast. Like, dude, like, there are a couple of junglers that were impressive, like really impressive on the top 2 teams, right? Which we'll get to soon. But Elioya was just like, watching him play is always such a treat. Also, his duo with Niski, fucking legendary. Niski had some ints, sure, but do you know what? I am really happy to see him go for those, because what I see is this guy's fucking confident right now. And you can also hear this in the interviews when he says like he's in the best form he's ever been in. And I don't think that's untrue. I think he's actually performing really great right now. And I hope he keeps it up, because like even on champions that are like not typically Niski champions, he had some pretty good games. So rooting for this guy, really. And the bot lane, the bot lane that everybody was like, this is gonna be the 7th or 8th best bot lane in the LEC. Oh, brother. Have you seen Karzy play? Have you seen him play this week? This guy knows how to... First of all, he did all the things I told you he would do. He hit all the 3 things that he's fucking great at. First of all, when it came time to be aggressive in lane, what did you see? This guy had no problems following up on Hylissang's plays and just fucking owning the enemy bot lanes. When it came time to lane 1v2, what's that? This guy gets fucking perfect CS under tower. That's impressive, and I told you exactly that as his main strength, right? Laning 1v2 while Hylissang roams is something this guy is going to be fantastic at. And also, I told you he's great in teamfights and skirmishes, and what's that? Even versus Vitality, like this guy was actually pressing his advantage really hard, and I was like, I was sweating for Vitality in that game, because I was like, do you know what? This guy could carry Mad Lions. This team is genuinely impressive. I predicted them to be top 3 in my previous video, and I'm not changing that. I think Mad Lions will be at least a top 4 team this split. Those guys are looking real good right now, and I'm just excited to watch this team play more, because yeah. Now, one thing, Hylissang on Enchanters, they did. I don't know if you've seen his Lulu game. First of all, like, yeah, everybody's talking about the flash polymorphs, and that was hilarious, right? But also, like, those 2 deaths where he just like walks into the super fed Azir and gets one shot, and then he respawns and he's like, I'll fucking do it again. Never change Hylissang. But still, his synergy with Elyoya and Niski was already on point. This is the first week of competition of those guys playing together, and this guy was already just like roaming with them and making plays around them up. I was really happy to see that. Sure, there is some end, and when you put him on Enchanters, who was that? I think it was Thorin who said that Hylissang plays Lulu as if it were Khan. This is so fucking true, right? I really think Mad Lions should start putting him on like actual Hylissang champions. Actually stuff like Rakan, stuff like even Nautilus, even though I don't think that's like one of his favorite champions, but stuff like, I know Leona is like absolutely trash in the meta right now, but maybe it's worth a shot with Hylissang, because he still got it. He still had this like fucking savant mind for the game where he just like sees angles that nobody else sees, right? So I still want to watch this guy play, and I think he's still one of the best supports in the league. I just don't think enchanters are his forte. Let's just say that. All right, so now the top teams. And once again, there is one team I had some real question marks for, and one team that I was absolutely right about. Let's talk about Vitality first, because I think this is easier. I predicted this team to win the split, and I also thought, like, they might not be great out of the gate, but also, Photon, what did I say? This guy prefers playing carries, but he's got great mentality for playing weak side, because he's just, really fucking smart, and he will never end the game, and he sees the angle, how to make a good play that would actually, benefit his team, but he will never force a play where it's like, when he sees the play and he's like, but I could also end the game for my team here. He will never force those plays. He's extremely intelligent, and Photon this week was exactly that. And by the way, as I said, I've only watched like 3 games of solo queue of this guy and like 3 games of competitive, and like those competitive ones I just watched at like high speed. And do you know what? That was enough of watching this guy to know that he's gonna absolutely be one of the best top laners in Europe, because those qualities are just something that you don't see from EU top laners. They are like they are kind of the opposite. They are like, they will force plays that are like completely unnecessary, and they will also not see the angle to make the actual game-winning play. It's so nice to see Photon in this league, right? And this is the guy who was the question mark for this team. Bot lane, good. Like Kaiser and Neon are just such a pleasure to watch. They didn't like come out of the gate just like smashing other people this week, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. They did their job fantastically well, and I know that if this team ever decides to play through bot lane, they can do that because Neon is also really good with resources. So this bot lane is not going to be a problem in the slightest. They will probably be one of the top bot lanes in EU by the end of this split. And just let's just talk about Perks and Bo, right? Perks. He had a Perks banger on the rise, right? He had this this is just a certified Perks banger. Just like go 0-5, completely in the game on a few occasions, just like dying in places where like, why the fuck do you even die there? And then still make the game-winning plays. That's the Perks banger in a nutshell. I love watching this guy play. I know it's frustrating for a lot of you people in the same way that Humanoid can be frustrating, right? But Perks is just like, he's so fucking creative in winning the game. I love watching this guy play. And sure, his Rise was bad, but his Azir was not worse, my guy. His Azir this week in both games was fucking exquisite. In the Mad Lions game, he got like absolutely giga fed by, just Bo snowballing his lane, right? But even in the other game versus, I think they played Heretics second, he was just fucking exquisite on this Azir. Like, he looked real good out of the gate, right? And Bo, now, I've seen some jitters from him in the first Graves game. He started this game kinda rough, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is a guy who has not played a competitive game for a while, and he's just basically a rookie, right? Besides playing those 10 games in the LPL. So I'm like, that's the rookie jitters. But by like the middle of the game, he got rid of them and he just started stomping fucks. And like then his Sejuani game and his Vi game were just like masterclass, especially this Vi game. Like this, just like this fucking awareness of the mind to like turn around this mid lane play where like his bot lane got caught by Kazi and Hilisang in the river, or like his fucking reaction speed to like instantly, as soon as he saw like Elioya's Wukong engaging on him, to just like immediately go in on this guy and stop him from ulting. That's the jungler I wanted to see in the LEC, and he did not disappoint. And bro, if this team is looking so good in the week 1, I am scared for what they are going to do once they get to MSI. And I am scared for what those guys will do in the playoffs, because I think they will be the absolute best team we have in Europe this year. Just like by far. But what about G2, would you ask? Well, those guys, as I mentioned in the previous episode, they had a few question marks, and I expected most of them to land heads, right? But I also was not sure about some others. And apparently, those question marks that I expected to land well, they fucking landed spectacularly. And those question marks that I was unsure of, turns out just one of them was enough for this team to be great. And I am going to curb your enthusiasm a little bit in that they have not really played an actual, like, really good team like Mad Lions, Vitality, or Koi, which I think are the other top 4 teams, right? They played versus, Fnatic and Excel, who are on paper supposed to be top 2, but I don't think are actually top 4, but I don't think are actually really good teams. And yes, I was wrong about Excel, and I am going to continue eating dick about this because I should not have trusted Xerxes. But all right, G2. First of all, the bot lane, both Hans and Mickey. There were question marks about those guys, but I was like, those guys are going to be great, and they are. I'm happy about that. Now, the question marks that I was unsure of. Broken Blade. Actually, it's less of a question mark and more of I don't think this player is good, and he was pretty rough in this week, let's just say that. So I'm excited to see him play versus Photon next week, because I don't think this will go really great for BB. I'm just gonna say that because, yeah, my man was he was not it this week, and like his laning phase was alright, but yeah, even when G2 stomped those teams, this guy still looked mad fucking sus. So yeah, there's this. Caps. The first game was what I expected Caps to be, but in the second game, he actually inted a couple of times, which, as I said, that's a good thing. I want Caps to int, because the Caps who ints is the Caps who makes plays. And then in the Zac game, I know this was versus Astralis, so he was probably more confident to just fuck around and just go in on whatever he could. But he played just great on that Zac. That was the Caps that I want to see, right? So the Victor Caps, I don't want more of that. I do not. The Akali Caps, all right. Turn up the aggression a little bit more, Capsay, and we're almost there. But the Zac Caps, this is what I want to see. So that's good. And then Yike. I expected this guy to be real fucking good, but I also said he will need some time to just really get into the groove, right? To settle into the LEC. And apparently he just comes into the league fucking swinging, right? And just contrast Yike versus Xerxes, right? And I know, very different type of players. But see what happens when your jungler puts pressure on the bot lane. Just look at that. And then look at Excel, who has to play with absolutely no pressure in the bot lane. There is a difference. And sure, I would say that both Hans is better than Patrick, and that Mickey is definitely better than Targamas. But this was a bit of a diffy in the jiffy. Yike played really impressive in his first 3 games. Once again, just like Bo, he had some jitters when starting those games. I think he had jitters in kind of all of the games, but once he got in the zone, this guy looks fucking great. I was surprised. I did not expect him to look so good out of the gate. So there is this. Yeah, but I am not going to crown them the LEC champions just yet, because I want to see them versus the other top teams first. They play Vitality next week, which is going to be really exciting, and we're going to go into the storyline section soon and talk more about this match. But I just, I really want to see what those guys can show. And I'm actually going to predict G2 winning versus Vitality, because I think their form right now is going to probably put them over Vitality, and they might be able to just snowball the game. But if they don't manage to do that, we'll have a really interesting game on our hands. So G2, I predicted them in the number 5 spot, and I thought they will not make top 4 this split, but they will be one of the best teams in Europe by the end of spring. And maybe we should just accelerate the timeline a little bit, because those guys look really promising. Now, let's talk about, now that we're finished talking about all 10 teams in the league, let's go into the stories to follow section, which I'm hopefully going to continue doing this, for every week from now. So, first match that I would say is really interesting to watch will be Fnatic versus BDS. Two bottom teams playing versus each other. Now, the two things I want you guys to pay attention to in this game is, first of all, the laning phase in bot lane. How will Reckless do against Crowny? Because I am not sure this is going to be pretty. Now, Crowny came out of the gate looking amazing, and Reckless looked like Reckless. So I think that, like, the BDS bot lane, sure, Labrov looked kind of sus later in the game, but he looked really great in lane. And I think they are going to just, like, just bash Fnatic's face in the laning phase. And even if they don't, I think that BDS can absolutely outplay Fnatic in team fights, because they have just an insane damage dealer versus, a guy who just, like, fucking runs away from every opportunity to deal damage. And also, this second thing I want to pay attention to is, will Razork and Humanoid continue working well together? Because I've seen, those guys played really well together at Worlds, and now they've come into week one actually seemingly carrying this form with them. So I am excited to see how this progresses. I expected them to be bad together again, but they surprised me this week, and if Fnatic picks up a win versus BDS, which is a strange sentence to say, I think this will be on the back of Razork and Humanoid. So I'm just actually excited to watch this game, and I think you should be too. The next game that I think will be an absolute banger is Mad Lions versus Excel. Now, I expect this to be a stomp in favor of Mad Lions, but I also will think that those guys will start experimenting a little bit more in this game. First of all, I want Hylissang to be back on engaged supports. Also, I want you guys to and just watch the game for that, pretty much, to see what they pick. Because if they actually start picking to Hylissang's strengths, I think this team can be, like, super dangerous. I also want to see how good their mid-jungle support synergy can get, because they looked really great out of the gate, and I want to see them continue improving on it. I also want to see the bot lane matchup. I just want to see Karzi go up against Patrick, Karzi and Hylissang versus Patrick and Targamas specifically, because I think this will be a bit of a brutal lane. Even if I think, like, Patrick will be probably fine by team fights, I think the laning phase will be quite brutal, so I want you guys to watch that. Let me just crack my neck a little bit. All right. And also, one thing I'm really excited to see, which is why I put 2 Mad Lions games, because I also want to watch Excel in this specific matchup, to see if Excel will start band-aiding their problem. And there are a few ways to do that. First, you could just start picking, like, real aggro bot lanes, even though I know this is not the strength of those players, but something has to happen. Or you could try putting Xerxes on, like, engaged champions and just tell him, like, bro, you're not playing your style, your only job is to fucking gang. Now, I don't think this would be very successful, but I think they have to try it. And I think Youngbok is a smart enough coach to try and figure out some band-aid for this team. So I want to see what the adaptations are, because I don't think this team will miss top 8. I don't think they will make top 4 either. But I think they will figure something out to start looking decent, at least. And now, the next game that I think that will be, and the first 2 games will be like, bottom teams playing each other, and then a really good team playing a struggling team, right? But the next 2 games, those are going to be the 2 certified bangers of the week, right? First of all, I think the LEC coined that their match of the week for this week, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think the G2 versus Vitality game will probably be a bit higher quality and higher parity, but it can also be a stomp. So yeah. Anyway, what I want to see in this game is, first of all, can Mad Lions bot lane stack up to Koi's? Because Koi's bot lane, Comp and Trimby are fucking great, and also Trimby is the enchanter god in the LEC, right? Whereas Hylissang can't really play enchanters that well. Trimby is the enchanter player in EU, right? So I'm really looking forward to seeing those 2 lanes going up against each other, because like people will say that Koi's bot lane is the best in the league, and that might be true. But I also don't think the gap is big between those 2. And depending on the draft, I think that Mad Lions bot lane can really contest, so I'm really excited towards that. I also want to see if Shigenda can beat Chasey in lane, because I don't think, he'll do very well going up against players like Photon, right? Which he already did, and that wasn't really... no, wait, he did not play versus Photon yet, right? No, he did not. All right. I don't think he can match up versus Photon, but can he at least beat Chasey? We'll see. I think with his mechanics, that might be a really exciting matchup to watch. And also, if Koi does end up getting a lead in the top lane, because I don't think they will get much of a lead in the mid or bottom lane, can they transition that lead to win the game? Because they did fuck all in that regard this week. So I want to see if they will actually try playing for Shigenda again and learn from players like Photon or Abby how to transition this lead, or if they will just continue, or if they will just put him on weak side instead. Which I really hope they do not. This is not the player you want on the weak side. If you wanted a weak side player, why the fuck not just stick with Odoamne, right? So I hope that they will continue investing in Shigenda. I just don't know if it's gonna pay out. So that's why I think this will be a really interesting team to watch. And really interesting game in particular versus Mad Lions, who's an actual banging team. Which also I don't think Koi will be making top 4 this split, guys. Just saying. I think the top 4 is looking like Vitality, Mad Lions. Yeah, okay. Actually, yeah. Vitality, Mad Lions, G2, and then probably Koi is 4th. Yeah, I can see them making it. Anyway. But yeah, this will be a really exciting match, and I hope you guys will enjoy watching it, because I sure will. And also, I might try casting this game, just for funsies. I will not be doing it live. I will just upload it onto this channel. So if you want to see me take a try at casting a game, there we go. All right, and the final game, the real match of the week, in my opinion, will be G2 versus Vitality. I think, because the schedule for those teams on Friday, on Saturday and Sunday is not that strong. I think both teams will come into the match on Monday 5-0, right? So only one of those teams will continue being undefeated after this game. So that's just mighty exciting. And the points I want you guys to pay attention to during the game is, first of all, how will G2 perform versus a smarter bot lane, right? I phrased as smarter, but really I mean a bot lane that's just like not gonna into them, right? I really want to see that, because in those 3 games that G2 played, they got like insane leads through the bottom lane, right? So I want to see when they play versus a bottom lane that's really good and not feeding, because this has always been Neon's strength. How will that go? I also want to see, will Bo shut down Yike? Because those are like the two hottest rookie junglers coming into the league this year, right? And both of them hit the ground running. Both of them had some jitters. But I still think, like, even though Yike is way better than anyone could have expected him to be, I still think Bo is the better player. So I want to see what happens when Yike goes against such a great jungler. I also want to see Yike versus Malrank or Elioya. But that's not this week yet. So yeah, I am just really excited to watch those junglers play chess versus each other. Or maybe murder chess. Seeing as both of them can be a little psycho. So this is for sure going to be an exciting matchup. Now, how will the Perks versus Caps lane go? Usually, besides Caps' like debut year, Perks has pretty much always got the better of Caps in lane. So I am really excited to see them going up against each other again, because last year Perks was the better mid laner in lane, right? And I want to see those guys match up versus each other, because with both of them having some bloodthirsty junglers, I can see at least Vitality attempting to like fucking solo kill Caps 3 times, or like gank, or, you know, just kill Caps in lane 3 times, I guess, not necessarily solo kill. I don't know if G2 will attempt the same, but I hope that they will, right? Because the Caps that I want to watch would absolutely want to shit on Perks in that game, right? So excited to see that lane. And then as a joke, but also not really, because this is kind of what I think about those players, can BB not end 7 kills to Photon? Now, I don't think it will be that bad, right? But I also think that Photon is probably the best top laner in the league right now. And I think that BB is just not good enough to be on a like top team. Like he was really good in the past on Schalke and even on TSM, but his last year on G2 was kinda sus, and this year he looked so fucking whack in the first week. So I am really excited to see how he can handle Photon. Now, I don't think Photon is like this super aggressive guy that will just like absolutely monster him in lane. But if BB gives him just a bit too much of an opening, then I can see Photon just like taking over this matchup so fucking hard that it's not even funny. So, with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I think this will be it for this week. I will, of course, be watching all 15 games of the LEC, right? And I will try casting the Koi versus Mad game and maybe the G2 versus Vitality game, if that first one is fun for me. So, once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Zoomin on the Rift. And I will come back next week, maybe with a guest. I don't have anything booked right now, but I'm just gonna try. So thank you guys so much for watching. We went a little bit over time, but it's still a lot shorter than the previous episode. So I hope you really enjoy watching this later.